We'll now move on to House File 1376. Representative Frazier, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to hear this bill and have it laid over, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Frazier. So it looks like you have an author's amendment. Would you like to move that amendment to get it the bill in the shape that you'd like?
Yes, I would like to move that amendment, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All in favor of the amendment or moving the amendment, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. The amendment is adopted. And Representative Frazier, if you wanted to speak to the amendment first and then to your bill, that would be great.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The amendment essentially cleared up some things. We found some errors within the original drafting that we wanted to clear up, and it realigned some of the subdivisions and sections to make sure it was in the shape that we want the bill to be in moving forward.
And to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Hassan, and committee members. Yeah, I'm happy to be here today along with Yelena Bailey, Director of Education for Pelsby, and other testifiers to present this bill, House File 1376. I also want to send positive thoughts out to Alex Liuzzi, Executive Director of Pelsby, who was unable to be with us today. I know he really wanted to be here, so we're wishing him well. This bill comes 3 years after the adoption of the tiered licensure system for teacher educators. During those 3 years, there has been constant engagement and analysis to determine what is working and what can be improved. This bill works to stabilize the areas that have provided clear and thoughtful pathways into the profession and propose changes to address the barriers, from as small as changing Minnesota to state in a few places to promote the work of out-of-state candidates in preparation, to as big as moving content and pedagogy testing barriers out of Tier 3 requirements. I often refer to educators as nation builders. Without them, we would not have the various professions and industries that make our nation what it is. Unfortunately, in many districts, our nation builders do not currently reflect the students in our classrooms. This bill seeks to help change that reality, as well as provide supports to ensure that all students will have effective teachers in their classrooms. I will not go into details of this bill because Ms. Bailey is here to provide that insight. However, I will take a moment to highlight a few things. This bill will make over 1,000 individuals qualify for a Tier 3 licensure, moving from Tier 2 to Tier 3. Just over 1,000 individuals who are currently enrolled in a teacher preparation program or have a master's degree in the content they teach would have no change to their Tier 2 status. This bill adds language to address the concerns of our shortage of CTE teachers who fill a critical and unique space in secondary education. I have heard these stories directly from stakeholders around the state in my role as a member of the Industrial Education and Economic Development Committee. Pelsby has worked with CTE stakeholders to craft language in Tier 2 that will improve the options for CTE teachers from the current law. Although this bill removes the unlimited automatic renewals for Tier 1 applicants, it does still allow for renewal above that cap when the district shows cause. The purpose is to facilitate the movement of individuals through the tiered system. Currently, Tier 1 teachers are tied to the district that supports their application. As they move through the tiers, that limitation is removed and they have the flexibility to freely explore other opportunities and share their talent and passion for educating with other students throughout the state. Even though this bill largely provides for greater inclusion and access to those that aspire to be teachers, it will require some work for others. There are currently 539 individuals that will have to apply for a Tier 1 licensure or go through the portfolio process for Tier 3. All of those individuals can and should be supported as they work to complete the portfolio process. Pelsby is partnering with Black Men Teach, Ed Evolving, League of Latinx educators, and others to help these educators get the support they need. All of these stakeholders are dedicated to ensuring our students have effective teachers in the classroom. Lastly, no one will be removed from the classroom in this bill, and many more people will be added to the classroom. Instead, this bill helps more individuals from Tier 2 to a Tier 3 pathway, as well as including a BA exemption, and other smaller changes to increase access to more individuals. I do not believe this bill will be the panacea to addressing the dearth of BIPOC teachers within the profession, nor will it cure our one of the worst in the nation education gaps, but instead it is another tool to help address these issues. Chair Richardson, now I would like to turn it over to Ms. Bailey to discuss the bill in more detail.
Thank you, Representative Frazier. Ms. Bailey, to your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee, and thank you for having me here. My name is Yelena Bailey. I'm the Director of Education Policy for the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board. As Representative Frazier mentioned, this bill is rather comprehensive and includes both larger proposals as well as small technical changes. Overall, the purpose of this bill is to strengthen tiered licensure, to enhance teacher preparation accountability and reporting, and to increase the board's capacity to carry out the duties delegated to it by the legislature. Instead of going section by section, I will provide an overview of the bill, highlighting key changes. So to start, I'll talk about changes in board operations. PELSB is responsible for overseeing all teacher preparation programs leading to licensure in Minnesota, as well as the licensure of teachers, substitutes, and related service providers. This includes overseeing licensure renewal and compliance, as well as reviewing ethics complaints. This work is done by PELSB's mighty staff of 22. The board itself is currently comprised of 11 volunteer members who rigorously carry out their duties through board and committee work. PELSB proposes adding 2 teacher members to the board in order to better facilitate the board's work, as well as to ensure there is a strong representation of classroom teachers on the board. Additionally, this bill clarifies the role of the teacher preparation member and expands the criteria for the administrator of a cooperative unit to meet the intent of the position while ensuring there are sufficient qualified candidates in the state. The second operational proposal is an increase of the licensing fee from $57 to $85. This amount simply adjusts the current licensing fee for inflation, since it has not changed since 2003. It also ensures the revenue collected for the general fund aligns with the allocation to PELSB from the general fund. The second overarching theme of this bill is to enhance teacher preparation accountability and reporting. This bill combines and replaces 2 separate statutes pertaining to teacher preparation in alignment with PELSB's efforts to ensure all approved programs, whether they are offered at institutes of higher education or alternative providers, are viewed as legitimate pathways. Previously, these statutes separated traditional teacher preparation and alternative teacher preparation, despite the fact that both should and are now required by administrative rule to meet the same state standards for approval. The second change regarding teacher prep is related to 122A.091 subdivision 1. That outlines data to be collected on teacher preparation. This bill proposes improving the quality of data collected from prep providers and discontinuing the district reporting. Current parameters around district reporting provide little in the way of useful data. For example, districts are currently required to report probationary teachers who are let go and identify where they were prepared. However, teachers are let go for a number of reasons, such as budgetary restrictions, and these are not necessarily a reflection of the teacher's preparation or effectiveness. A better source of this information is the survey data collected on all newly inducted teachers by teacher preparation providers in the data summary report. Changes proposed in this bill would strengthen the data by using information reported by districts and program completers through the Common Metrics Survey. This bill also makes reporting language inclusive of alternative providers. This bill includes a number of adjustments to the tiered licensure system that will provide needed flexibility for districts, increase teacher support, and strengthen the quality of teachers in Minnesota classrooms. Many districts have expressed the need for flexibility when it comes to licensing educators in the performing arts and world languages. Under this proposal, these individuals, most of whom would have been considered non-licensed community experts under the old licensure system, will now be able to obtain a tiered licensure license in a comparable way to CTE teachers. This bill also includes a number of provisions intended to help teachers move up the tiered system, such as by requiring that Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers receive mentorship and professional development designed to help them obtain a Tier 3 license. With that added support in place, this bill would modify the requirements for a Tier 2 license by removing the option to qualify by graduate credits and testing. Tier 2 would then be for educators who have advanced content expertise, such as having a master's, and those enrolled in teacher preparation. We also partnered with career and technical educator stakeholders to craft specific language in Tier 2 that meets their unique needs. They would be eligible for a Tier 2 license based on 2 years of teaching experience with unlimited renewals. With the additional support and clarifications to Tiers 1 and 2, this bill modifies the requirements for a Tier 3 license by removing the option to qualify based on 3 years of experience and allowing those who completed prep out of state to qualify. These changes ensure that anyone who holds a Tier 3 license has demonstrated their ability to meet state standards by completing a portfolio or teacher preparation. Today, you will likely hear from testifiers who will say that allowing teachers to obtain a Tier 3 license without evidencing pedagogical and content knowledge is the only way to increase teachers of color. That is an extremely dangerous narrative that perpetuates the idea that people of color are somehow less capable than their white counterparts. In reality, it is not our ability that is the issue, but rather the structural barriers that prevent us from achievement. PELSB supports removing those barriers to build a teacher workforce that is not only diverse, but equitable. You are also likely to hear from testifiers today that their skills and experience should be counted when considering their qualifications for a Tier 3 license. To that, we say yes and. Yes, you have unique expertise and experiences that make you an expert in your content area. And we want to ensure you have the support and pedagogical training to put those skills to use in serving Minnesota students. If teacher prep is not the best path, then PELSB would love to support you through the portfolio process. Unfortunately, many Tier 1 and 2 educators have been dissuaded by the idea that the portfolio is too costly or too difficult a pathway. To address that, PELSB has initiated a partnership with several educational organizations to better support cohorts of portfolio applicants and to help them document their success while they are teaching. This would mean that they would receive guided support while creating their portfolio during the 6 years they have a Tier 2 license. They can actually apply after the first 2 years and then become eligible for a Tier 3 license. Additionally, we are working on fee waivers for applicants for whom the cost is a barrier. As I've hopefully made clear, PELSB is not interested in keeping good teachers out of the classroom. Instead, we are committed to helping those teachers meet state standards and stay in the classroom because we know they are capable of doing so. In addition to the modifications of Tiers 1 and 2, this bill also proposes moving the requirement to pass content and pedagogy exams to Tier 4. This would allow individuals, especially those for whom testing is a barrier, 3 years on a Tier 3 to receive additional test preparation support from their teacher preparation program as required in statute and their district. These content and pedagogy exams would then replace the requirement to pass the basic skills exam for Tier 4 license, which we propose eliminating because there is no evidence that skills exams relate to teacher efficacy. Our proposal to remove the basic skills exam is in alignment with HF1376 and the Increased Teachers of Color Act. This proposal would help nearly 40% of Tier 2 holders who have completed teacher preparation but not yet passed their exams immediately obtain a Tier 3 license. The final changes to tier licensure included in this bill are related to licensure renewal. This includes developing renewal requirements that are specific to Tier 3 renewal, which, with the changes previously mentioned, would be specifically for first-time teachers. We are also proposing clarity around renewal that ensures all teachers must complete the required cultural competency training and meeting the needs of multilingual learners. The bill includes a number of smaller policy and technical changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions on those items now or at a later date. So let me close by prefacing some of the testimony you are likely to hear today. You may hear from administrator organizations who ask that the state trust in the supports they provide to teachers to replace meeting state teaching standards. At the same time, they say that requiring mentorship and adding professional development requirements is a barrier. PELSB proposes working with districts to develop the existing supports for Tier 1 and 2 teachers in a way that ensures they can move up the tiers and obtain a Tier 3 license. This may mean partnering with their Tier 2 teachers as they complete the portfolio process, or it may mean a district becomes an alternative provider that can prepare all of its Tier 1 and 2 Tier 2 teachers for Tier 3 licensure. In fact, we are working with the district on that right now. As Representative Frazier stated, This bill is about stabilizing tiered licensure by clarifying pathways and removing unnecessary barriers. This bill keeps the core intent of each tier. Tier 1 remains a license that allows a district to fill an immediate need when it cannot find a higher licensed teacher. However, it clarifies this as an entry point to the profession by putting in place a structure that won't just keep an individual on a Tier 1, but instead move them up the tiers and provide them with the support to stay in the profession. Tier 2 remains a license that allows a district to choose to hire an individual enrolled in preparation, which supports grow your own pathways, residency models, and other alternative preparation models where an individual would like to teach while learning. This bill also keeps this as a license that allows districts to choose to hire an individual who is a content expert, either through CTE qualifications or through a master's degree in their content area. Notably, this bill makes Tier 3 designed for teachers who have met state standards for the profession of teaching, and then includes targeted professional development to support our newest teachers. Finally, Tier 4 remains the license for a trained and experienced teacher. The most notable change to this pathway is allowing out-of-state teachers who have years of teaching experience to immediately qualify for your Tier 4 license, rather than requiring 3 years of teaching on a Tier 3 before moving up. While these changes are on one hand about stabilizing tiered licensure, this is also a big picture bill. It frames how we see teaching as a profession that requires both the art of connecting with students and the science of knowing how young minds learn, how to assess that learning, how to work with diverse students in diverse settings, and how to turn content knowledge into engaging and effective lessons. It also frames how we understand the purpose of state standards, teacher preparation, and renewal. It frames whether we see teacher development and evaluation as a personnel tool for districts and teachers, or as a licensure tool. The vast majority of this bill has nearly universal stakeholder support. I hope stakeholders testifying today will let you know all of the parts of this bill that will increase pathways and strengthen supports for teachers, particularly CTE teachers, out-of-state teachers, Black teachers, Indigenous teachers, and other teachers of color. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. So members, we're going to move into public testimony now. I will let each testifier know that you will be timed for 2 minutes, and you will be given a 30-second warning as well. We will get through as many individuals as we can, and if we run out of time, we encourage folks who have not already to submit written testimony as well. So first up, we have Robert Scripture, and on deck we have Anthony Holloway.
Hello, thanks everyone for giving me the opportunity here. My name is Rob Scripture. I've been in education for 27 years. I've been a principal for the last 15 years, and specifically the last 6 years, I've been at a Phoenix Academy and Rail Rochester Academy for Independent Living, where every student in my building's a special needs student. And I guess my main message to you today is I'm for opening up as many ways as possible to get people into the teaching profession. Frankly, I can't get applicants. I don't want teaching to end up be like we currently have 8 openings for paraprofessionals, full-time jobs, benefits that I can't even get people to apply for. And I worry that creating all these different layers and all these different barriers make it really challenging to get teachers. The last 5 openings I've had in my buildings, I haven't had 5 applicants. I have to search through all the other areas to try to pull people in, to try to convince them. I was lucky enough to get Anthony Holloway, who qualified into one of these tiers where he hadn't went to college for it. He'll speak to you next. You're going to see what kind of human being he is and what kind of teacher he is when he talks. We can teach you how to teach math and teach you how to teach reading. I can't teach you to have a passion for kids. Okay, and if you're willing to come in and work with us, we can make that happen. I'm in this profession, and I just listen to this bill and I'm confused. I want to make this as easy as for people to get in, so we can open up for people of color. We can open for different genders, all types of different beliefs, but we got to start getting people in. It's a profession that's dying. Even in the elementary world, where we used to get hundreds of candidates, we're not anymore. We need to find a way to open it up for people. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Anthony Holloway, and on deck, we have Ideal Abdul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Anthony Holloway. I'm a Tier 2 teacher in Rochester. Simply put, House File 1376 is trying to take away my teaching license. As a Tier 2 teacher on the precipice of earning a permanent teaching license, I am terrified of the fact that House File 1376 would take away my chances of renewing my Tier 2 license and eliminate my pathway to permanent licensure. I am aware of how Tier 2 teachers are perceived. We are vilified as people responsible for diluting the teaching profession and whose unqualified presence endangers the education of those most in need of quality teachers. For a profession that averages burnout after 5 years, I can tell you the road is exhausting, but not because I'm unqualified. I'm simply hard at work. I'm finishing my 5th year as a special education teacher, working with students who have emotional behavior disabilities. Those talking down about Tier 2 teachers don't see the relationships I've built with students classified as hard to reach. They don't see the 41 hours of graduate teacher education courses I completed, or that I co-founded an equity leadership team at my building to address inequities, or the time I spend being a technology liaison for my building to help students and staff with troubleshooting, or that I'm a faculty union representative, or the hundreds of hours of professional development I've taken through the school and on my own time. They don't know that all those professional development hours don't count for my Tier 2 license renewal, and that I do them because I am dedicated, because I am qualified, and because of this, I deserve the respect of this legislative body and of Pellsby. Today, I'm asking you to see me and all that I've accomplished as a Tier 2 teacher. I'm asking you to keep the pathway that allows me after 3 years as a Tier 2 teacher to be allowed to earn a Tier 3 permanent license and to maintain the integrity of the tier licensure system. If you don't, you have marked the end of my teaching career. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Ideal Abdul, and on deck we have Annie Olson-Reiners.
Hi, I'm still trying to figure out the Zoom thing, I swear. I missed coming to the building. Madam Chair and members, many thanks for the opportunity to testify today. I too oppose this horrifying bill with the many other testifiers, along with the many other testifiers. My reason is simply from the parent's perspective. The teacher who suspended my child was licensed and followed all the so-called licensure pathway. Yet she was not trained in teaching high school students, nor does she understand my son's needs or our culture. My son's current charter school teacher did not follow the so-called licensure pathway. And I would take Asha over Kelly any day in any school. You see, Madam Chair and members, Asha is kind, caring, compassionate teacher who reflects my son, understands our culture, and most of all, sees my son's potential. I'm heartbroken about this bill. I'm mortified that this was written by a Black man who should, at least at the very minimum, understand how hard it is for Black and Brown students to learn. To be an effective and amazing teacher does not require one-size-fits-all pathway. Let me put this in another way that you all can perhaps understand. All of the legislators in this committee are you are all House of Representatives, correct? But your journey and pathway to this place in this moment has been different from one another. Some of you are attorneys, some of you are teachers, some are mental health professionals, and others got here from different areas. Imagine if you were all required to take the same pathway to become a legislator. Majority of you would not be here. Life is not one size fits all. We must enhance, not restrict the pathway to finding knowledgeable and competent teachers who reflect our kids. This bill will hurt our children and ultimately our state.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Annie Olson-Reiners, and on deck, we have Josh Crossan.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and representatives from sunny northern Minnesota. My name is Annie Olson-Reiners, and I'm an elementary school principal. I grew up in the Twin Cities, attended the Perpich Center for Arts Education, St. Olaf College, served in the U.S. Peace Corps, and completed my master's degree at Hamlin. Previous to this role, before our move north, I served as an assistant principal at a performing arts charter school, high school in downtown St. Paul. Prior to that, I was a Spanish immersion teacher. As old millennials, both working in public education, my husband and I decided that the best way for us to make a positive difference in the world, raise our family, and still be able to pay off our significant student loan debts was to move to Greater Minnesota, where the cost of living is more affordable and we have more trees. We love the community that we live in and serve. I currently serve as the elementary principal for Nashwauk-Keewatin Public Schools. As a building principal for 5 years, I have navigated the challenges of successfully recruiting and retaining talented teachers who are dedicated to continually improving education for our students. 4 years ago, just before the tiered system of teacher licensure went into effect, I traveled down to the Capitol to talk with some of you about a community expert teacher that I had who was not going to make the tier cut. She was invested in our students, a phenomenally nurturing and effective caregiver and teacher to our most medically fragile students. She's now not a teacher, she's a paramedic. Had HF 1376 been a reality at that time, I believe that we could have been able to support her through the teacher portfolio process. We could have helped her grow as an educator. Every teacher that I have ever met wants to be a good teacher. Passage of HF 1376 will help equip schools in Greater Minnesota to attract, grow, support, and retain teachers who are deeply invested in their community, in our students, and in continually improving their instruction and professional practice. Thank you for your service to our state and to our students.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Josh Crossan, and on deck, we have Carlandra Hines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Josh Crossan. I'm with Ed Allies, an education advocacy group that fights to ensure that all kids have access to an excellent education. I'm here today to express strong concerns about HF 1376. The presentation from Pelsby was a strong defense for reverting back to a broken system, and it was quite impressive how they made it sound like it was progress. Only 5% of Minnesota's teachers are teachers of color, but over 20% of our Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers are teachers of color. As Pelsby's executive director, Alex Liuzzi, said at the December Pelsby board meeting, tiered licensure is having an effect on bringing teachers of color into the profession. Our tiered licensure system is working. We're diversifying our teacher workforce and removing barriers to teaching for our economically disadvantaged teachers and for our teachers of color. This bill, the bill we are considering today, will rebuild those barriers that have kept teachers of color out of our classroom. I've heard it is the intent of this body to increase the number of teachers of color to counteract the impact of racism and bias, but HF 1376 brings us back to a place where teachers of color are no longer welcome. In short, this bill reverses our efforts in making an anti-racist licensure system and forces teachers into financial hardship, making them retake unnecessary and often duplicative courses to stay in their profession. Supporters of this bill claim that our old system was sufficient, a system that has kept our teacher workforce at 95% white and that our legislative auditor called broken. Research shows that traditional teacher preparation serves more as a barrier to teaching, especially for teachers of color, and does not consistently improve the quality of teaching. I'm afraid of whom we've been intentionally keeping out for far too long. When it comes to the way we've been doing things, the data speaks for itself. Things are not going well for many of our kids. I ask that you reject this policy, knowing this bill's disproportionate impact. Anyone who desires to be anti-racist must vote no. I'll be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Calandria Hines, and on deck, we have Jose Perez.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the House Education Policy Committee. My name is Dr. Calandria Hines, and I am a principal at Richfield Middle School. Thank you for allowing me to come before you today to express my support for HF 1376. There are 4 areas within HF 1376 in which I would like to express my support. Line 18.28 and 19.24 support the licensing of field experts that either have a bachelor's or master's degree in the subject areas or have worked in the performing arts industry for 5 or more years. Due to the shortage of teachers in performing arts and career technical areas, it is critical that districts have the option to hire field experts when their efforts to find qualified licensed teachers fail. As a former principal at an arts high school, I know personally of the challenges that administrators experience searching for licensed teachers in the performing arts. In my current position, I know the challenges of finding licensed teachers for our CTE courses. These line items allow districts and building administrators to recruit field experts who would bring real-world experiences into the classroom. The time and effort district personnel and building administrators put into finding field experts should not be in vain. Districts and building administrators should continue their investment in newly licensed teachers and provide professional development to Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers that is designed to assist them in obtaining a higher tiered license, as identified in lines 17.8 and 20.12. It is important that districts do their due diligence in retaining Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers and assisting them in obtaining a Tier 3 license. Thank you for your time and attention to my support for HF 1376.
Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Hines, and my apologies for not referring to you as Dr. Hines to begin with. Up next, we have Jose Perez, and on deck, we have Payne Yang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jose Perez. I live in Hugo, and I'm a student at St. Paul College. I'm a 2019 graduate of High School for Recording Arts in St. Paul. I strongly oppose House File 1376. I believe this bill would make it harder to attract and keep teachers of color who are often crucial in helping students of color, like myself, reach our full potential. I spent 9th grade at a high school where I failed most of my classes. None of my teachers were of color. I decided to transfer to High School for Recording Arts, which serves about 300 students, most of whom have struggled in other schools. For me, this meant a trip of 2.5 hours each way every day, taking 2 buses and a train. I made that sacrifice for 3 years because of the chance to learn with passionate teachers who re-engaged me and other students in learning. One of them was Ms. Hobbins, a Black University of Chicago educated math teacher with amazing results with second chance students like me. Hobbins holds a Tier 2 teaching license. If 1376 passes, Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers would face huge new barriers to remain teachers. And I have a few questions. When so many students of color already struggle, why would the state make it more difficult for talented teachers to stay in teaching? Why would the state make it harder for schools to hire and keep some of their strongest teachers so that struggling students like myself can benefit? And why would the state discourage students from the most racially diverse licensure tiers from staying in teaching? Why would the state make changes that would likely reduce the number of teachers of color? If I had fewer Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers, I know I wouldn't be here speaking with you today. Thousands of other students on the pathway to college and career success may still be struggling. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Payne Yang, and on deck, we have Deb Hinton.
Shu. My name is Bang Yang. I am a Tier 3 Hmong Heritage Language teacher in the Osceola area schools and a lead teacher for the National Coalition of Hmong Language Teachers. I am the Minnesota Council on the Teaching of Culture and Language 2019 Teacher of the Year. In 1997, when I finished my student teaching undergrad degree, I struggled to pass my teaching exams and eventually passed it on the 3rd try. On the other hand, a handful of my heritage peers gave up. In the last 3 years, I've been working with Heritage Language Assistant Professor from UW-Whitewater, Dr. Jenna Cushing-Lubner, to revitalize Hmong language reclamation with teachers nationally. We know our Tier 1 and 2 heritage teachers have the heart and desire to teach. They make a huge difference in the classroom because of their lived experiences and know students and families best. The assets they bring are unmatched. However, what Tier 1 and 2 heritage teachers lack are the confidence and skills to pass exams that are rooted in tests that measure one's English linguistic competencies, assessing heritage teachers of their deficits, not their assets. My teachers remain in those tiers because of barriers like the content and pedagogy assessments. What they need most is support to strengthen their skills. We need to give our heritage teachers the ability to succeed in the profession. Instead of support, this bill puts stricter limits on how long they can teach, limiting renewals from 3 times to 2 times for Tier 2 teachers, and eliminating automatic renewals for Tier 1 teachers of color. 30 seconds. Let my colleagues stay in their passion. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Deb Hinton, and on deck, we have Tim Lutz.
Good afternoon, Chair Richardson and members of the committee. I am Deb Hinton, the Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of School Administrators. Thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony that is also supported by MREA, AMSD, MSBA, and C. Tiered licensure has been effective for bringing qualified content professionals into classrooms as leaders struggle with deep shortages of Tier 3 and 4 teachers, particularly in specialty areas. Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers provide career and technical options for students, along with classes in the arts, business, foreign language, and more. Without effective Tier 1 and 2 pathways, opportunities for students will diminish. Businesses often partner with schools to find instructors and create programs between the schools and industry that assist in creating a pipeline of interested students into their fields. The tiered licensure system is working for public schools, students, businesses, and communities. The proposed elimination of unlimited renewals for Tier 1 teachers and only 2 renewals instead of 3 for Tier 2 teachers are areas of concern. If these provisions move forward, we anticipate shortage areas going unfilled at even greater rates when these teachers learn they may invest their time only to be unable to continue their practice. There is also a potential loss of teachers of color holding Tier 1 and Tier 2 licenses, resulting in a regression of our efforts to increase the number of BIPOC teachers in the classroom. Finally, the proposed changes remove timelines necessary for districts to have their applications for Tier 1 licenses approved by PELSB. We greatly appreciate the workload of the board, yet districts need to know on the first day of school if their application has been approved, not 30 days later or longer. While waiting, districts often hire substitutes with a content area, without the content area licensure, instead of a professional with extensive knowledge in the content area. This causes a depletion of resources school districts simply cannot afford. Thank you for your consideration of this testimony and your service to our state.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, we are going to end public testimony with Tim Lutz, and I will ask the remaining individuals to please submit written testimony. We have a couple of member questions. If we are able to get back to public testimony, we will definitely do that. Tim Lutz.
Thank you for this opportunity, Chair Richardson, to speak today on this bill. My name is Tim Lutz. I'm the superintendent of area schools in northwestern Minnesota.
Mr. Lutz, I think that your audio has muted. I think we may have lost Mr. Lutz. So with that, we will have Ann Dublin. We'll let you testify quickly before going to member questions.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the committee members. My name is Ann Dublin. I'm a Tier 2 teacher at Anoka Hennepin. My CTE license is currently in medical careers. I teach 2 courses to high school students that allow them to become EMTs and also earn 9 college credits. Students from my class have delivered babies on the freeway, and they've also helped countless car accident victims. So proposed changes to the House File 1376 would be catastrophic to CTE teachers like myself. Eliminating the option to move from Tier 2 to Tier 3 through successful years of experience teaching will cause us to lose highly successful teachers across the state and would likely lose programs that meet the needs of our workforce. My position in the school district and with concurrent enrollment requires me to maintain my certifications. I have to complete the 24 additional hours of professional development that probationary teachers do. I get observed 3 times a year by the Anoka Tech, and I get observed an additional 3 times a year by my administrator. I've met minimum faculty qualifications to teach at post-secondary, which includes pedagogical competence. After many years as a probationary teacher, if pedagogy was a concern, I would not have been repeatedly hired for the last 6 years. CTE teachers don't always have programs in many of our areas, and there's not an alternative prep provider for medical careers.
30 seconds.
Portfolio is an option, but I would have to complete 3 portfolios. I ask you not to support the changes proposed in eliminating years of successful teaching, moving from tier 2 to tier 3. This causes me to lose my job every 2 years.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll move to member discussion and questions. Representative Erdahl.
Sorry for the little delay there. First of all, I think that there are many good things in this bill, but I have some major concerns and questions. From the beginning, I had concerns about pedagogy and preparation. I mean, way back before the tiered licensure happened. But over time, it's been assuaged a bit. But this bill repeals the requirement that tier 3 licensed applicants pass a pedagogical and content exam. And that, again, was one of my main concerns. There are methods to block effective tier 2 teachers from advancing to tier 3. I'm concerned about shortages in education right now. Actually, we could end that problem and the need for the tiered system by making the profession more attractive through higher salaries, but that's not going to happen in the near future. The tiered system is what we have to address shortages. We have a bill to offer incentives for more teachers of color. It's an important bill, but now we are considering a bill that potentially will reduce teachers of color. Right now, 30% of our students are BIPOC, less than 5% of our teachers, but a growing number of those teachers are in the tier 1 and tier 2 tiers where the barriers are being increased. We require mentoring in this when we don't have a required mentorship program in the state. Of course, I do have a bill that would fix that. I received a call from a special education teacher today, a director actually, that said she had 4 openings, but she can't fill. There's a concern that this bill will deepen that problem. And so I don't know if we have time today, but I would like Pelsby to answer, what is the problem that we're trying to solve here? Is there concern that this is going to lead to fewer BIPOC teachers? Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Erdahl. Very quickly, Ms. Bailey, would you like to respond to the question?
Yeah, so a couple of things you mentioned. One is, and this came up in the testimony as well, the concern over shortages and difficulty filling. This does not remove or change at all the good cause exemption. So in all of the instances that were shared where people are struggling to fill it, and in those cases, good cause exemption would allow those additional renewals for those tier 1 and tier 2. So this does not change that. I want to be clear about that. The other piece is you mentioned, what's the thing we're trying to change with regard to BIPOC teachers? And as it currently exists, absolutely right. We have seen, a slight increase in teachers brought in on those tier 1 and tier 2, but they are not required to have any particular support or professional development. And we published this in our supply and demand report. Retention is the largest issue when it comes to increasing our larger percentage, right? So that's part of why this bill adds that additional support. The other piece is, as the system currently exists, what we're kind of projected to do is to have these teachers increase on tier 1 and tier 2, while their white counterparts have these longer term tier 3 and 4. And they may move up or they may not, because there's a lot of factors in that, even in that existing, moving up from tier 2 to tier 3 pathway right now. So what we are doing is building in something that ensures that you're proposing something that would ensure they have the training and the support to get that tier 3 license so that they can stay in the field and have the professional training to really succeed in the profession and thrive there. So we're not trying to push people out of the tiers, we're trying to push them up the tiers so that they actually can stay and our profession can grow.
Representative Erdahl.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very concerned that we have not had enough time to ask questions of many of the testifiers. Will there be an opportunity Wednesday for us to at least question the author of this proposal? Because I know many of us, at least on my team, have questions in regarding this proposal. But if time allows, I'd like to ask Mr. Crossan, as long as he might still be on the Zoom.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Crossan, will you explain how this proposal takes licenses away from certain teachers?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Madam Chair. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Representative Erickson. Currently, Tier 2 teachers have the opportunity to enter the profession through an array of options, like having a master's degree, completing assessments, being currently enrolled in preparation or completing preparation. This takes away those options. So we heard from a testifier, Anthony Holloway, who finished his teacher preparation but didn't complete his student teaching. He's been in the classroom for 10 years. Because he hasn't completed that student teaching, he's no longer either currently in preparation or completed preparation. So he would no longer be eligible for a Tier 2 license. He's expecting his Tier 3 license next year, but this bill would even take away his Tier 2 license. And this is the case for hundreds of other educators who are in this similar situation, maybe thousands, who would no longer be eligible for a Tier 2 license if this bill passes.
Representative Erickson, just really quickly to your question as well in terms of time, we do have Friday reserved if we need to come back to continue discussion as well. And being that we're only laying over the bill, there will be opportunity for more discussion. And we are also at 2:31. So I am going to give Representative Frazier a final word before we have to move on.
Madam Chair, thank you. I'll be quick because we're going to lay it over, but Representative Erickson, I am, as the author, you can call me anytime. I will be open to have that conversation. You know how to contact me, so I'm looking forward to the conversation. And I do believe, I did state the number, 539 people would be impacted to that number that Mr. Crossan laid out. It's not thousands. We know the number, we know who they are. We can identify those individuals to make sure we help support them when they need that help. And I believe Pelsby is working with your group to help work with some of those individuals. So that is there. I'm just looking forward to the continued conversation. I love the passion for those individuals that made some statements. You haven't had a chance to get to know me yet. I'm looking forward to getting to know you and talk more about this. So looking forward to that. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Representative Frazier. So with that, we will lay over House File 1376